And we're gonna move having Principal Bechtel talk a little bit about the annual report card. We're gonna kind of move that to the front of the meeting this evening, and then deal with the business stuff after, if that's.
Hi,
I mean,
Kelly.
that's so.
You're in charge.
Tonight, that's what we're doing. Is it getting you on?
Yeah. And hopefully they can see you. Guys, can you see and hear?
I don't like you behind it. That was dinner, okay? I made TikTok dinner. I don't need your.
I didn't know how to use TikTok.
I mean,
Are you able to hear and see?
Connected
to the audio.
Here.
I mean, that's understandable.
And then you're in your 40s when you're like, yeah,
Can you see?
I'm trying. I'm trying to get on too. Right. Oh yeah, let me. No. Sure, you know you got it right. Detail making. Don't say all the words.
I said these are for me and you, and this is for
The one that comes to every day.
us and Brooke and Treasury.
All right.
Oh, we don't. That's the next.
She said she didn't.
Yeah, it might be available after hours. Do you see?
Yeah, Wi-Fi. Are you talking about Wi-Fi?
Available after hours.
After hours,
Yes,
it doesn't
yeah.
require a password.
Yeah.
It is a
Kelly.
wonderful change.
Hi, Kelly. Can you hear me? Can you hear? Yeah. Okay, good. Yay. Kelly can hear and see. Da, 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 da. Redemption.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
You
wanna put that one over there?
Then I will go up. Yeah. Pop it up there.
Why is it not
I just want to
putting-
let you. I'm waiting until I can let you in.
Right.
Oh, did you put a waiting room? Turn off waiting room.
All right. Well,
Okay.
it's for when I wasn't in here yet. So, how do I?
It's not. Internet is not working.
Uh-oh.
It says.
Oh no, it says waiting room. There isn't a waiting room.
Okay, yeah, that's what you want.
It's because it says.
I may have to do it from my phone because Wi-Fi is not working.
Is that you have okay, yeah, we're good now.
Too far? Just so everyone is aware and everyone online, we will be recording
It is.
this. So
I set it up to record on that.
perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Can you guys see the presentation board? Can you see the board?
I can see it, but it's all just blurry. You can't see like what's on it.
This. How's that? Is that better?
Put it on a screen of I can see. I mean, it's just really bright. Like it's hard to read. I can see it though.
I'm gonna put it on you in a minute, but I wanted to show something before I start.
Okay.
But it will be bigger. Is it just Kelly on there?
No, it's
I can send it to
Kelly and Emily.
Alrighty, are you ready?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for allowing me to flip the agenda. I am just not feeling my best and just really need to get home. So thank you, thanks, Megan. But before I get started, I want to take time to introduce the preschool coordinator. If you have not met, this is Ms. Dejanay Lawson. Hi. She was here and said, "Oh, I'm going upstairs." I go, "Oh, I'll go with you." So, if you haven't been through the main and noticed the front main hallway across from our main office is the preschool suite. Now it pretty much is all preschool administrator, so is Dejanay, and she has a secretary now for preschool. Oh my God, Carmen Butler. Carmen Butler is her name. So if anyone has questions about preschool or trying to contact those of you who have gone through our preschool, you know that it used to be you call Kathy Mitro, who was stationed over at central office, who would send you over to me or send you over to Liz. And now we can just say, oh, let me transfer you to Ms. Butler, the preschool administrative assistant. And then in that office also is Noreen Smith Morrow, who is the preschool psychologist. And so the three of them work so closely. It's so nice. They have their own little suite over there now. And it's nice too, because when parents come in, they have a face. And I don't know if there's anything you want to say.
Hi, nice to meet you all. Just a few preschool updates. There is a Ludlow Project Architects meeting, a meet and greet on tomorrow, October 26th. We are celebrating that vision and hearing screenings are completed early for preschool. It never generally happens in October. Excuse me. Families will be notified of the results shortly. So we got the screenings done. We're still in process with getting that information out. And we've just transitioned into our second unit of inquiry for IB. And Mrs. Bechtel already shared, we are excited to have an administrative assistant because she can support all of the needs from attendance concerns to if you have questions about preschool, so you can send your questions directly to her and she can get you in the right place to go. And thank you for letting me join.
Thank you. And
Pay no attention to the man.
we I was trying to think if there's something else. Preschool engagement night. More information will be coming. We're gonna start putting the preschool updates and information in the Onaway news. So some people have asked, if we should look somewhere else. Where should we find stuff? We're trying to figure out like how to streamline everything to make it easier for parents. So we'll start putting that. It's always on the calendar, the PTO calendar. We try if we know, but there's some things that we've had to shift and move. So as dates change, we'll let you guys know. Are you all set now?
Yeah,
Okay.
you go ahead. We may have
All
to send the slide deck out to anybody that needs
I'll
it, but
send it to you
I
before
think
you leave
it's
tonight.
just the brightness is just.
Alrighty. Before I go right into sharing, so right now we are just finished our math testing and we are going into finishing our OST third grade reading assessments. Only third grade, remember, takes OST in the fall. It's part of the third grade reading guarantee. About 3 weeks ago, Ohio decided to put out a new House Bill 33. After the school year began. So it made changes to BRIMS and it made changes to the third grade reading guarantee. And I'm telling you all that now because I just want, as parents are getting ready for conferences, to understand, especially if you have a fourth grader who's not reading on track. It's a good thing. Part of the House Bill is a good thing in that it's saying we're not going to just give kids reading improvement plans in K-3. We're going to keep giving them reading improvement plans until they're reading proficiently. So we have in K-3, as I'll talk to you about in a minute, the K-3 literacy score, which basically is monitored by a cut score. A cut score is not the same as a proficient score. A proficient score says my child is reading proficiently at the norm expected for that grade level. A cut score is always going to be about 15, 20 points below proficient. So it's actually, if you're shooting for the cut score, you're shooting for below proficiency. But that is the score that the state uses to determine if a child needs a reading improvement plan. They don't say, oh, Cherie, the score was 700 and she didn't get 700, she got 690. We're going to put her on a reading improvement plan. No, they say the score was 700 and unless she got a 650 or below, we're not going to put her on. But there's a whole 50 points, right, that are from the cut to the proficiency that, as a parent, you're like, no, I want them at proficiency and that's not good enough. So what would happen is after the third grade, we just kind of drop that, right? So you go on to fourth grade and it's like, oh, Cherie still is reading below level, but you know what, woof, we're done with that TGRG, it's okay. But Sheree still can't read. And you know, she's not gonna get those structures because they're not required. Now, Sheree might get a teacher who's like, I can tell Sheree can't read. I'm gonna do what's best. She's gonna be coming to me. I'm gonna give her, because that's best practice and that's what teachers you would hope would do, but it's not a requirement by law. Now House Bill 33 is going to do that. It's going to say that a child not reading on grade level will be required to have 90-minute literacy block, which we already had in Shaker. Some places did not have that. 90-minute literacy block with intense reading intervention by a highly qualified reading specialist. We were already doing that. The state says, House Bill 33 says you're going to have to do it at least 3 times a week. Shaker does it 5 times. We give 30 minutes 5 times. We are also just beginning this week for students who are reading below level, offering tutoring. We didn't get enough teachers. We wanted to offer it in all grades, you know, K to 4. We did not get enough teachers to be able to offer it to all grades. So right now it's 3rd and 4th grade, because again, it has to be highly qualified. It has to be someone who can, you know, teach reading essentially.
I was going to ask, highly qualified means they have a reading endorsement.
Yeah, or not necessarily, because Shaker, since our teachers went through letters training, which is the science of reading, so that qualifies under the state for highly qualified.
But it's somebody with a teaching certificate and an extra bonus thing.
And we have a lot of things going on. So we have some kids doing the tutoring after school. We call that scholars. Then we have max scholars, and then we have chess club, and girls on the run. So we have a few things going on that kids are buzzing around. And what's nice about that is when you have various things going on, it doesn't feel like this stigma, like, you know, like I got to stay after school because I keep tutoring, right? Like everyone's just staying after school doing something. And that's what I like about the program. And that in the 90 minutes with the 5 days is embedded in the literacy block. So again, it's not, oh, you know, come on, Sheree, let's go down the hall because you got to get your extra help. We don't do that in Shaker. So the kids are getting what they need without feeling, you know, like labeled, or everyone's aware of it. So if you were curious about our state report card, I just want to show you where the portal. So you type in Ohio report card or report card.education. When you get to the page that looks like this, you're just going to type in Onaway Elementary. It's going to pop right up. And when you go on it, if you're someone who's like not really good at like this kind of stuff, is just like too much, and I just want to see quickly what stars we got. This is the easiest one, just to look at at a glance. And it gives you the stars. The stars are always out of 5. So I'm going to go into each one of these now so that you understand. And those of you who attended last year when I did this presentation, to help you really understand it, I took last year's data, because remember last year I took that data and I compared it to before COVID and during COVID so that you could see. So I took this year's data and I compared it to last year's data. So we're going to do side by side so you can see. Again, recognizing that we don't want our kids to be stressed. We don't want our kids to be any more anxious than they already are, which we know has tripled since COVID. We just want to see what our kids know so that we can improve instruction, level the playing field for our students, differentiate the resources that we're providing for not just our students, but our families, and help our teachers, because we do know that since COVID, a lot has changed with our students and their some of their home life, but some of just their social emotional well-being. And so their approach to learning is different. And before we can even get into academics, often we're trying to just get the social emotional part together, the behaviors, so that children are ready to learn. And that was something that, 5-7 years ago wasn't as big as it is now. We really do need the first 6 weeks of school to build classroom culture. It's really essential in today's times. So achievement, that's the first area on our report card. Remember, all of the areas are out of 5 stars. So this was one area that we did well in. We went up in. This is the area that really measures how our students in 3rd and 4th grade score on the OST, the state report cards. So this is an assessment that measures how much you know of your grade level end of course exam. So it's not like math, whereas it's like a growth value added. How much did they move from what they came to you with? This is, you're a 3rd grader, and we want to know by the end of the year, did you learn all the standards, all the things you needed to know for 3rd grade reading, for 3rd grade math? It's not going to assess you, even if you're a high learner, it's not going to take you past 3rd grade if you're in 3rd grade. It's not going to take you past 4th grade if you're in 4th grade. Just measuring how well our kids are achieving. And what helps this score is how well they achieve the standards in the grade levels before 3rd and 4th grade. Because we don't learn all the science standards in 1st and 2nd, and we wait till the 3rd grade teacher or 4th grade teacher has to, we're not going to achieve at the rate we should. So in this area, and remember last year, I always put the scores in red if we're way below what we should have been. Yellow, we were close. 80% is what we're always shooting for. That's the passage rate that the state says you're doing well if 80% of your students were proficient or higher. Teachers shoot for that with their exams. When we're teaching a unit, if less than 80% mastered it, we know we need to reteach. Maybe we don't reteach to the whole class, but we have to pull this group here. They only mastered this at 60% or 70%. They have not, reached what we would like, which is 80%. That's what the state shoots for. In 21-22, if you look at the first, the top part, our 3rd graders were at 66% passage. This past spring, we were at 80%, 3rd grade ELA. Math, 21-22 school year spring, 64% passage rate. This was 75% for our 3rd graders. So yellow, because we didn't hit 80, but we moved up a lot from the year before. The year before, the 21-22 school year, was the last year of COVID here. 4th grade. The reading and the math, both are yellow. Both were below 80% in 2021 or 21-22. And then in last school year in spring, we dropped in math. We went from 70% to 68% passage rate. And math is, this was common. I saw this in across the board in all grades, even in looking at math. Some of our math scores slipped, and we'll be able to see more of that. This is a focus area this school year for us. Last year, if you were in this room when we went through this, one of our goals was differentiating instruction for the achievement gap. Last year, we had like 2 stars for gap closing. Our white students were outperforming Black students by almost 40%. We made this a focus last year. We were differentiating. We were creating care partners. We were doing buddy. We broke apart all the rooms and did, instead of rooms where all the high achieving kids were and one kiddo with IEP, we put clusters of gifted in every single room. We broke up some of the students who had IEPs and moved resources around so that classrooms were balanced. We had, for the first time ever, a gifted coordinator going in and helping teachers with planning for kids scoring in the gifted range. We were doing a lot of stuff, really looking at panorama data and noticing that things like, one of the things that we had a low score on is a sense of belonging. And a lot of our Black students scored under 50%, saying that they felt that people believed they could do the work or that they were being called on. I don't feel like I'm being called on, or I feel like, you know, maybe people don't believe I can do it. So we had equity rounds and we would go in and we would look at groupings. We would look at wait time for students. We were pairing kids differently. And you can see 21, 22, all the red and yellow. And then last year we got a 5 out of 5 this past year for gap closing. Our students went up in every area. Our economic disadvantaged students missed their goal by just a little, like in parentheses, their goal 66.1 was the goal for reading. We got 62.4. Math was 57.5. We got 52.4. Yeah.
Why did the goals go down? Like if I just look at like Black non-Hispanic.
Yeah, and so they do that. The state does that across every single school district. And one of the things I've been noticing, I don't have an exact answer on that, but one of the things I've been noticing is that this has been happening since COVID. And so one of the things I told the teachers was, I put the goal there because I like to look at numbers and I like to see what the comparison is. But I'm like, we have to just keep growing higher than what we did the year before. Because if we celebrate the fact that we got something that the goal was, like, I mean, look, let's go up to Black students. So Black students in 21-22, the year we were in COVID, in reading, it was 69.5. And then this year it was 57.2. Now I'm glad we got 62.8, but we're still not even hitting the goal that was expected in the 21-22 school year.
Yeah.
And this is happening in all the districts that I know of in Ohio. It was even in my last school district. So it's not a shaker thing. We don't control it. The state makes the goals. But it just kind of makes me sad because I'm thinking, okay, this isn't really how we're going to come out of this, is by lowering the expectation. So I put it there because I'm transparent and I want people to know. And I'm glad you saw that we talked about this last year, because I told you last year's goals were lower than the year before that. They've been dropping since the school year of 1920 when we shut down. And they keep dropping, and they're putting out these state report cards, and people are celebrating like, oh, my school district got, and it's like we just want to keep growing and making sure students are hitting their personal goals. Like I always tell parents, like when you look at the math report, you want your kids to keep growing in that percentile, like that they're in. You want to know that they're being challenged and they're meeting that challenge. Because this is not good. If our kids move out of Ohio, out of Shaker, and they go somewhere else to college or they go live somewhere else, we want to know that they compete. They can compete with students anywhere. We don't want them just looking good on the paper here in Shaker Heights, Ohio. And that's kind of scary that the goals keep dropping.
So this may be a kind of a dumb question, but does the state dictate different goals to different districts, or do they dictate the same goal to all the districts?
The ones I've looked at, they've had different goals based on your previous year's score.
Okay. So
but they all have been dropping, but it may not be the same number. Like what my kids have here at Onaway may not even be the same that George has at Lomond. It's like,
it's a by school goal.
It's kind of like, you know, on the map, how it makes your goal each benchmark. And sometimes that goal goes up, sometimes that goal goes down, depending on what your RIT score was. It makes adjustments like that. The only thing I don't like is that it seems to keep dropping each year. And even when, you know, we're scoring higher, like we're still not. So I think we just have to keep improving and get it
so
back.
It's not an apples to apples if you're comparing to another school or another district, because
it's kind of based on how you scored.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The year before. It was a great question. Yeah.
So just so I'm understanding this correctly, like this is saying, when we were looking at the data on the other side, this is saying, okay, I'm just like, for number purposes, let's say we had 20 kids in the white non-Hispanic group. Of those 20 kids, 99.9 3% of them hit
Met
that
their goal.
80%.
Yeah.
Okay, and so this is like
Mhm.
reflective of that overall data. from the
Yep.
previous slide. Okay.
And so I'm not focusing on the goals in parentheses, I'm focusing on growth.
Right.
So we did hit our goals, okay, even though the goals were lower, we hit them. That's why it's in green. That's why we got a 5 out of 5. But for me, with staff, I was celebrating that we grew in what we scored this year from what we had scored last year. Take the goals aside, we grew in every area. Because that for me is that we're coming out of this and we just have to keep climbing, learning from what we did the previous year, and working more effectively, helping kids master the standards. That's really for me how I'm looking at this.
Sorry. Do you know how this tracks nationally? I mean, I know you're very focused on obviously what we need to do here, but you know, when you talk about
Like
if you-
gap closing in general.
yeah,
The gap got really wide during COVID, wider than it had ever been because resources and various things that impact a child's education, depending on where you live, got worse, right?
but I mean, are like other states also lowering their expectations?
Other states, I don't know. I'm be honest, that's a good question. I haven't looked at other states. I just know like local school districts that where I've worked, I always still look at them.
Yeah.
And I just have a lot of friends in education and we are
Yeah.
just like, you know, it's really sad because so many people are celebrating and we're actually 5 years ago, our expectations for children were a lot higher.
Yeah.
And I get it in that there's a lot of families and people still coming out of this. I think the conversation just has to always remain on, we know that we're still not where we need to be. So we're not going to rest on our laurels. Like we're not going to look at this and be like, yeah, we did it Onaway. The work is still not done. But we're taking steps in the right direction. And I think that is helping staff feel good because it can be very defeating to every time these things come out, feel like all the hard work you do and you don't see any. So like this made staff feel really good because we did a lot of stuff last year. And now we can pick and choose like the things that really worked well. And if it didn't work, okay, let's, try something else. But it did feel good to know, especially in this area, because this was a huge focus for us. This is an area we are still working on, and this is the part that, we always talk about, we're each a piece of the puzzle. So when kids come to our grade level off track, everything that we do across our grade level matters because those kids will leave our room and they go and they get mixed up into another room. So if I'm receiving Cherie's class and she didn't teach foundations with fidelity and Megan's class did, and now these classes are mixed and they come to me and I'm picking up now and I'm teaching the second grade foundations. If they're not in the same place with where they left off with this scientifically based phonics program, it makes it hard to keep going. And so all of this is based on the science of reading. This is all the stuff that the teachers are getting trained in. It's all about how are we teaching kids how to read? How are we growing readers from grade to grade in the early years? Kindergarten, first, second, third. So it's measured fall to fall, which means when I started last year in the fall, the kids took a reading test, math. If they got a RIMP and had a RIMP the year before, we didn't grow them. If they did not require a RIMP that next year and they had a RIMP the previous year, we grew them. So when in kindergarten, when they started the school year, 76 were on track, 76.3% were on track, 23 were off. First grade can look and see when all of those kids from the 21-22 school year came to the 22-23 last year, 29.6% moved to on track. That's less than 30% of kids. from the whole group of K3 readers. Now, mind you, it was COVID, because the fall I started was the first fall that we went back to normal. So now we are finishing up a whole year since I started, right? So we don't have this data yet. We'll get this data in the summer of how many kids were off track of fall last year and moved to on track the fall of this year. Roughly looking, because I have a little OCD like that. I've gone through to see. I took all my RIMS because I had 72 RIMS last year. And I compared them against who is on a RIM now. And got to take kindergarten out because they weren't here. It looks like we've grown about 40% of our kids to on track. The only other piece that gets measured, it gets added to that measurement, is how many kids will be off track when they finish this OST this week, but then hit the score in the spring. The third grade is the only grade that does that. They do a fall to spring, and the state takes that little bit of measurement and adds it into this K3. We got a 3 out of 5 stars. That's not bad. It's just when you grow this area well, then you see it in that achievement data. Because if they're reading on track, when they get to 3rd and 4th grade and take that OST reading, they can read the test. The test is written in a level, a lexile that's for a 3rd grader. So if you can't read independently with the lexile of a 3rd grader and comprehend, you're going to struggle with that test. So that's not, impossible for us to do. We just have to all do our part. And this is the biggest focus this year. Even in preschool, we've got foundations and Heggerty, and we're training teachers in how to do all that phonological awareness, because that's another thing. Somehow we jumped from a society of teaching kids nursery rhymes and attending to sound, understanding the relevance of rhymes, nursery rhymes, and we went right into sight words. Like, I can't even tell you how many kindergartners come in and they cannot identify a rhyme. You give them 2 words, 3 words, and you say them out loud, which 2 rhyme. They cannot tell you. They cannot segment sounds, but they can read a whole list of those words. Like, they know they know all these sight words. And you're like, but they can't. And then I can't tell you how many kids have such high oral reading fluency and can't tell you what they read about. We call them word callers. They are so good at word calling. They read. And then you're like, okay, so let's talk about what you just read. And they just stare at you. Or they start telling you a wonderful story, but it's not the story they just read. And you're like, okay, so we should write that down. That's a great story. It had a beginning, a middle, and end. But so, there's holes, and we see the holes when we take the MAP test, because those kids will get very high vocabulary scores. And then foundational skills, it'll say low. And they're in the 4th grade. And a 4th grader should never have low foundational skills and high vocabulary. And, we missed something in instruction when that happens. So we are really trying this year with our new master schedule, we're providing teachers with professional learning to support Heggerty and foundations. We have an extra literacy specialist now who's going in to help the teachers with progress monitoring, so that we cannot wait to MAP testing. That's benchmark testing. We need to biweekly see what kids know, progress monitor, so we can change our instruction. We have really been trying to support teachers, because I know from being a teacher, like, this kind of work, the amount of stuff that we're asking right now, it's a lot. And it's a lot when you take into the fact that kids have so many more emotional needs now than they ever have. Families have needed, resources and support. And you can't talk about reading when you have a child that's dealing with trauma or dealing with some of these big emotions. So we really have been working in the classrooms a lot more. And it's been nice for me just to kind of roll my sleeves up and, because when I was a teacher last, it was 2017, right? The world looked completely different. And so you can't really help people with what they're doing if you're not on the ground, if you don't have your boots on the ground and see. So I truly believe that this year we're all kind of like learning together, and it's made, I feel, the work not feel so heavy.
Absolutely, to have the support.
Yeah.
So Dora, I'm sorry, I have a question from online. What is the difference between being proficient and meeting the guarantee? So like where the 79.7 are, yeah, versus the
So do you
100.
remember when I opened, I told you like there's this cut score and it's like 20 points below proficient, right? So kids had to get a cut score to go to third grade. They could get two different pathways. They could get it with the map, and that cuts like 15, 20 points below the target, the norm. Every grade level has taken on my office wall. If you're ever interested, go in there and snap a picture of these two charts, because I keep them hanging so teachers can see. Because when I started, I will never forget one of my first grade teachers, because why do you have two charts? And I said, because one is the one that's the cut, but the other one is the one that's the proficient. And we sat and we went through it, and I was telling her about it, and she's like, never had anyone explain that to me. And I thought, well, if my own teacher doesn't know this, then I know the parents probably don't know this. And it was like this, it's just like, so then we just started talking about it more and talking about data. And there was just a time here where, data, kids were always just doing really well. And I looked back at Onaway's data for 15 years, and I could see that there was a time where you really didn't need to talk about it because kids were doing really well, and IB was running deep in the veins, and kids were going above, doing stuff that probably elementary kids didn't do. So I can see why there wasn't this culture of data, and you don't really want to focus on it. It's not always so fun, but you need to not ignore it. You have to be informed. You have to know how to talk about it without being stressed or making kids anxious. Because if you're not planning, if you're planning and you're never looking at instruction, you could be wasting energy in an area that isn't needed, or you could be making kids bored. Like, I'm teaching this, I didn't pre-assess them. If I had pre-assessed them, I would have seen they all know this, or majority of them know this. And that's probably why I've got behavior issues, because Johnny's over here bored, right? So we're now in this mindset of where we're giving pre-assessments. We're finding out what they know before we dive into that unit. And then we're breaking them up according to what they're showing us they can do. Like, we just did the narrative writing pre-assessment. Oh my gosh, this whole table here, according to the rubric already knows how to do this. So we're going to take them a little deeper at this table, but this group, that's working smarter, and that's meeting kids where they're at, and that's keeping kids motivated and engaged. And that's just some practice and time that we are going to have to do with our teachers, because there was a time where they didn't have to differentiate this much. But in a classroom now, we have a very wide, level of abilities. So we only had 79.7 kids who hit the proficiency score in third grade.
And the state goal of 80.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. I mean, yes, we don't want kids to be retained, right? But we really want our kids to be able to read. These are the strategic goals that the district has put in place, and we use these to develop our school goals. What areas are we focusing on this year? So last year it was the gap closing. That was our big thing, a sense of belonging, school culture, a sense of belonging, and gap closing. This year, we are focusing on all students who are reading below grade level. 26% of our students in grade 3 and 4 scored below proficient on last year's OST. That means they scored in basic and limited. And the thing about basic and limited is you get like 0.4 of a point for limited, which is like the lowest level, and like 0.6 for basic. When a child scores proficient, you get a whole point. we want to get kids to proficient, not just because of the point system, but because we know if we get them to proficient, that when they get to taking these achievement tests, they can read them. We only had 30% in 21-22, 30% of our kids scoring proficient, who were below proficient. So we moved it a little bit. There's less kids now. 26% are what we had this past year not proficient, and it was 30% in 21-22. We also want to increase the amount of untracked readers year to year. So when they leave kindergarten and go to first grade, we're hoping that if they were off track in kindergarten, by the time they get to first grade, they're on track. The gap is easier to close from K to 1 than it is from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3. It just keeps getting harder and harder. So if we can really push those resources in the lower grades, we're going to get a bigger bang for our buck. Like, it's just going to be easier to close a child knowing the difference between letters and sounds versus stringing words together to form sentences, to read paragraphs, to write paragraphs. We also want to increase the percent of students scoring proficient in math. Math is a goal across all grade levels this year. So our math block, we have intentionally gone in and scheduled our math block to allow teachers to have time for that direct math lesson. But then, just like the daily 5, the literacy block, we now have the math station. So students are doing math journal writing, math collaborative problem solving. Yes, they do Dreambox. Dreambox is a requirement of the district, 20 minutes a day, and it's a station. And the reason why we do it is it's adaptive and it's based on your math score. So whatever your child got on math, they populate their screen, they upload that wristband so that they get problems along it. Some kids love it, like they could be on it forever. They get mad when you're like, the timer goes off and they have to rotate, but some kids hate it. So it's good for them to have practice because the OSP, the whole test is on the computer. So if your child doesn't know how to drag, click, move, solve problems, like 3-digit math problem solving on the computer feels drastically different than paper pencil. So, and I have watched kids, I have literally stood behind them and watched them solve a problem wrong when they do it on the computer versus when they do it on paper. It's so interesting how their brain works. It's like they don't even realize how to carry and do the same thing that they just did on paper on the computer. So it's like what I tell teachers, like, I hate decodable books. When I was a teacher, I hated decodable books, but there's a place for decodable books in a primary classroom. There's a place for a leveled book in a primary classroom, but then there's also needs to be a time where kids just pick books that they're interested in, because when I see a book that I love and I really am curious about, I'm going to fight with that book until I can read it. And so if we don't ever give them a chance to have books that interest them, we're not going to develop the love of reading. But if we don't give them decodables, we're not going to build fluency. And if we don't give them level reading at their lexile, we're not going to know where they're at with their comprehension for their level. There's a place for it all. Same thing with math. They have to know math facts fluently. We can tell kids who don't know it, they struggle with multiplication and division. They have to have fact fluency. They have to do math on paper. They have to do math with a partner, and they have to do math on their own paper pencil.
I'm sorry to interrupt you
It's okay.
again, because I know you want to get out of here. So a dad, I think this is probably the appropriate time to ask this question. A dad emailed a question earlier today. But he couldn't be here tonight at all. But he said he discovered that math is being taught at the end of the day. He has a first grader. However, according to several studies that have been done, they show that it's better to teach children math or reading in the morning than it is later in the day. Do you know, is there a specific reason for teaching first graders math at the end of the day?
So math is not just taught at the end of the day, because number corner is a part of math and it's part of their opening morning meeting. But just from being a teacher for 17 years, everything's better in the morning, right?
Right.
I mean, kids are better in the morning. Better even so at 8 in the morning versus 9:30 in the morning. But the math lesson is going to go as great as the instructional planning of that lesson is going to go.
Okay.
A child having rest, a lesson being meaningfully planned and engaging, doesn't matter what time of the day you give it to them. The kid's going to want to do it if it's engaging. So if they're having a hard time, there could be other factors, but everything can't be in the morning. Right. What we did do with the master schedule this year, though, and I can look more closely at first grade to see, if they had math in the afternoon, for sure they've got number corner in the morning. But we also gave them the opportunity to flip a couple days. So like, for instance, I was just doing an observation in a second grade room today, and it was her day to do math in the morning. So she's got like 2 days where math is in the morning and literacy's in the afternoon. And then because it really is all based on their special schedule.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everybody can't have their specials in the morning. So, in our school, you know, we have we have 429 students in our school. So, yeah, our specials, our single subjects don't even have any time. Like they're just like boom, 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 boom. But yeah, the research shows everything is better in the
Right.
morning.
All right, I will briefly respond to that, and then I will copy you on the response,
Yeah.
and if he has more questions, let you know.
And I can look
Sorry.
at this class schedule because I did let teachers, the master schedule was designed for all K-4 schools. It's the same, all K-4 schools. And the reason is we share a lot of people, bodies, resources. So we have to have this common time. But when they weren't sharing a body, I gave them the flexibility to flip things around. The only thing they could not flip is I said, when literacy specialists are coming to your room, you need to be teaching your reading. I don't want a lit specialist working with a reading group while you guys are doing free choice or math. When they come in, because I need all kids to not know who's getting that help. Everyone's doing reading when they come in. But outside of that, they could move things around if it worked better in their schedule. But I agree. I would love to have more things in the morning. So yeah, so we're trying to work on math totally across the building. No, I will not even sit here and say, oh, math was, you know, we didn't hit our goal in math across any grade level. So even though with OST is only in 3rd and 4th, we didn't hit it, the expected growth from math, even according to math. We had individual kids who hit their growth. Oh yeah, we had kids who rocked it. I'm talking about that 80%. We didn't hit that across any of our grade levels. And we have to improve our attendance rate. Our attendance rate was 93%. The state wants us to be at 95%. Really, what the biggest thing they want us to watch is the chronically absent. So 21-22 school year, 16% of our students were chronically absent. That means they missed 10% or more of their school year due to absences. And, you know, at that rate, we say, like, if a child misses 15 minutes of school every day from K to 8th grade, by the time they get to 9th grade, they've missed an entire school year. We cut that down last year. We started focusing on attendance last year. We weren't really putting it out as much to parents, but we were doing a lot more calls. We have an attendance committee, and we meet bi-weekly, and we pretty much look at who's chronically absent and how can we help that family. So we work with our FACE department. Crystal McNeil is our liaison for Onaway. Trina Jones, Keith Langford, they come over to our meetings bi-weekly. They help us help families. So it's more of a, Dejanay, I noticed that, you know, your daughter's missed a lot of school lately, and we just want to, you know, see what can we do to help you. We would love to have you come in. You know, this is our FACE family. You know, there's been families that we found out didn't know we had champions. Oh, Mrs. Bechtel, it's because I'm always trying to get out of work and I can't get there. Oh, did you know about champions? Help them get in champions. We've had some.
No idea about champions. I had no idea about champions. And Aubrey was already here for like 3 years. I didn't know they had they offer financial aid too.
Vouchers, yeah.
I was struggling. I got 4 kids, so full-time nurse, full-time working. I was struggling to pick them up.
And it makes such a difference because the kids love going there. I mean, they help them with their homework. They have stations. They get snack. It's a part of their school building. They feel very safe, very comfortable. A lot of times they see us still walking around. It's a natural thing, and for them to want to be in it. A lot of kids beg to go to champions. But yeah, we couldn't believe how many families didn't know about champions. And so these meetings have been so important. We even hooked one family up with another family because mom was just like, you know, I'm struggling. I got to get to work by 8. I trust him to let himself out. He's going back to sleep. So now he gets dropped off at a neighbor down the street who makes sure he gets to school with a responsible adult. these are all things that improve also a sense of belonging. It's like someone's noticing me, someone's noticing my child, someone wants to help, and we do it in a very discreet way, a way that doesn't look like we're trying to tell you about how to raise your child, but like we know the importance of being at school, because many times reading groups, interventions are happening right in the morning. And so I have a button I can click that shows me a child who's chronically absent and then all their scores. And oftentimes those children fall in every single bucket. They fall in my attendance bucket. They fall in my at-risk bucket for math, at-risk bucket for reading. And so I can't help the reading and the math until I can get them here. So,
Okay, just a quick question. So chronically, so if it's 10%, that's like 16 days,
yes.
right? How does that work? Just thinking my child last year, he caught the plague and everything else. Like are those actions different and excused if it's like COVID, for example?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, those are excused.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
When you have COVID or any kind of medical, they get coded N. And
So
they're exempt. This is like unexcused absences that don't have one of the reasons in the handbook. You know, all the list of reasons: family illness, personal illness, doctor appointment.
Well, even prearranged absence don't go against that, do they?
So vacations,
Yeah.
the district approved, but the state changed the attendance codes. There's like 24 hours of extracurricular time that's approved. But if you have a child that's not really missing a lot of school, you won't have to worry about and you'll know if you're on that list because you'll get a call that says a warning, like you're getting near it. I usually give a call to people when they get to like 5, 6 chronically absent hours, just to kind of like say, hey, be careful. But this is like really people who either haven't called or it's not on the list of excuse. But medically, you're getting sick, your child is sick, absolutely, we want you to keep them home, and that is excused. They get sent home from the nurse, that's another medical exemption because she's a nurse, so if she sends them home.
So one thing though I think works though is if your child gets sent home, they're excused that day. So if they're home the next day, you don't have a doctor's note.
It depends. Like if they get sent home by the nurse because of like vomiting or diarrhea or a fever, she will excuse them up to 48 hours, like 2 days, because you're not allowed according to communicable. Yeah. So like this week, I've had like 3 pukers go home, and I said to the parent, like, she's excused also tomorrow. So she tested me, my kid.
Now, what about, say, for instance, my kids, it's the second week of school and they have COVID and they home
We've had
tested, but we
full-
never went to the doctor
That's
to get
fine.
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
we still have the ability to mark those N if you call us, and we believe you. We're not doing the days of where we're like, send me a picture of the test.
No.
Yeah.
I just want to keep all the
wanna
kids
keep your
home.
kid home. They ask you to let Val, our nurse, know, because she still does document, just because they're keeping a track to, like, if the numbers spike, how many kids are out right now because of COVID. But yeah, if you call Terry and you're like, we took a test, he's positive, those whole 5 days will be marked N medically. So these are some of the things that teachers are working on this year just to help meet the needs of our students. The first one is called a tiered sheet. So we look at the math data and we break our kids up into tiers so we can provide for reading and math what they need. So like the red group those are kiddos who scored below the 49th percentile. We do one for reading and for math. And then they tell me what strategies they're working on. And we pull these strategies based on the skills they scored the lowest on in math, because it tells us, it breaks it right down to the standards. So this would be our intervention group. The yellow group is our on target group. They're scoring 79th, 50th to 79th. They're right on target. We want to give them more of what they need, grade level. Green group is our kids who are scoring above grade level. So 80th percentile or above. Some of these kids also have a WEP for gifted reading and math. So we will get strategies and work support from our gifted coordinator. And these kids we call the enriched group. So it's like I always call it PIE, preventive, intervention, enrichment, giving kids what they need. And then the literacy groups, those are just like reading groups when they call kids over what skills they're focusing on in reading group. Definitely always working on being internationally minded and recognizing that when kids appreciate diversity in others, when they are working in these collaborative groups with all these different learning styles, it grows them even more as a human because they're building the capacity to have empathy and to understand. And I know for sure that the way we placed our classrooms last year helped our gap closing. Kids grow when they're exposed to different levels. And when you have kids of all ranges working together, learning together, that is the best way to take a child who is, I like to say, striving versus struggling. They will rise to the occasion every time when they're exposed to a peer versus an adult trying. And you can't grow kids who are striving if everybody in the room is striving or working at the same level. You have to have kids of all ability levels working together. So yes.
Just a quick anecdote. I was in a classroom today and they were doing some different stuff. And I just, like it's just your kids sort of disappear into a black box for 6 hours sometimes, right? And you're like, I don't really know what happened. And so like when you get peaks, you're like, oh, that's what's happening. And I just saw so just sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. I'm done.
I saw but so I saw, kids were working on different things and okay, when you finish that, go to this. And some kids had finished and some were still working on it and some had yet to write anything down.
Mm-hmm.
And I, was doing different things, but I think organically, maybe not, but I think a child who had finished, I then saw over encouraging and doing a little coaching of oh, what about this? Giving suggestions to a child who was doing some real striving.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just really heartwarming. Mm-hmm. And I had been, some kids were raising their hands and I was, over trying to help too. But yeah, coming from a peer,
mm-hmm.
that my friend is showing me how mm-hmm. to do this or giving me ideas about this. And it was a really, I got to see how it can work, mm-hmm. to have kids of different abilities and everybody is benefiting from that because the child helping the friend, that's also a benefit to mm-hmm. them too. So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
I'm so glad you shared that.
Peek into the
That's kind of like the detracking what it looks like in an elementary level. That's and we teach them, that's a PBIS strategy, 3 before me. So if I'm working as a teacher with my reading group and you're struggling, we want you to ask 3 people before you come ask me, because 99% of the time when they use that strategy, 3 before me, they're going to get the answer, the support they needed, and they won't actually need me. And they're going to actually, a lot of times, come up with some creative things that I might not have even said. And they're all going to come to me anyways, because during the reading workshop, the writing workshop, the math workshop, the teacher table is always one of the stations. So it's not like, oh, my child's just learning all day from this other kid. No. They all get to the teacher's table for their lesson each day in all those content areas. But when I'm working with a group, I can't always stop what I'm doing to go to you. And if you can't wait until your group gets to me, what are some things you could do? And then, there's always going to be the kid who, I asked 3 people and no one can help. And then it's like, okay, you did ask 3 people, so come on over here, because it must be something really challenging, right? But really teaching them how to learn, how to get information, which I think is a real life skill that kids need more than they need always getting the answer. They need to know how to go out into the world and find out. And that's really at the core of what IB is. Teaching students how to learn, how to find out, how to take action, not what is the right answer, because that's easy. That's easy to just give kids answers, but we really want them to know how to go out there and do that. So I'm so happy you got to see that, especially in 2nd grade. Was it 2nd grade? Yeah, that's really good to see in October in second grade, because it usually takes a little time to really, and it takes a lot of patience. So, well, thank you guys. That's it. And I just really want you guys to know that we appreciate all your support, all the resources you've helped those teachers get, seeing you guys in the classroom, supporting, volunteering. It really is helpful. Like, reading with a child might seem like the easiest thing to do, but there's just so many kids that could use an adult to like listen to them read. Repeated readings are the biggest way to move a child. It sounds so silly, but it builds fluency so fast. It's a really high yield strategy, repeated reading. So if you ever want to come in and volunteer or read with a class, I know third grade's always like, I just need someone to come in and do these reading fluency passages daily. Like, I need these kids to get their repeated reading, because they know that some of them might not get it at home. So we try to embed as much support as we can during our school day. Any questions? Any questions?
How do you volunteer for the reading? Just reach out to.
Yes, and even if it's not your classroom, like, honestly, Mr. Gillette and Miss Kendall and Miss Black were just telling me the other day, like, do you have any of your retired teacher friends that would want to come be? They actually like when it's a person not affiliated with their class.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, don't ever think that you only have to be a volunteer for your child's class, because a lot of teachers like when their volunteer isn't one of their parents. The kids aren't as distracted. And some of the kids like it too, because they know a lot of the other parents from their neighborhood, and they get so tickled to see and tell their friends, like, I was reading with your mom today. So, but yeah, you can reach out to the teacher, or if you can email me, I could say at the grade level meeting, like, hey, I've got these two moms that would love to just come in and read with kids on these days. Yeah. And they then would contact you.
Okay.
Just have to be fingerprinted at the library. Yes.
Well, that was my question. So I assume the requirements are just the volunteer requirements.
That's it.
And background check.
Yeah, and that's just because you might be alone with children in the hall, so.
And the willingness to keep confidential whatever's happening.
Yes.
Between you and that, which I feel like should be a given, but still needs to be done.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that, because that is a big reason why they make you do it.
Alrighty. Well, Doris, thank you so much. Thanks for powering through.
You don't need any of this stuff.
And no, if you want
I'm
to
gonna email this to you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you want to email it to us, and then
I'll send you a
question.
And then we'll share it out.
Do you have
Save
to
it to
have
the Google Drive.
I'm new to this.
I'm so happy you're here. I saw her.
Hi, Casey.
She came in today, and I said something about the PTO meeting, and she said, "Oh, that is tonight."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yes."
I'm excited because my goal this year is to actually get into school and pay attention to what my kids are doing. Because I got 4 girls under the age of 12. 2 here, 1 at grade 1 in middle school. So I'm kind of just like going through the motions. And earlier this year, my 3rd grader, her reading, oh my gosh, it was terrible. And I was like, wow, you don't know how to read? Like, how did I not know that? But I mean, I got 4 kids. I don't even know. I can't remember his name. So I was like, okay, how can I get involved? And that's when one of the moms was like, oh, come to the PTO. So I'm glad I'm making these meetings, because these numbers and stuff you're talking about, I had no idea. Like, I like this. I'm excited.
I'm happy to have you, and I think that it seems little, but it's really all of us just coming together and helping kids feel good about what they can do, and saying, you know, you've got this, right? I mean, like, that is really what was the game changer last year. We did care partners, Jen, right? And we buddied up kiddos who just needed someone to be a champion for them. We wrote down on note cards the name of a child who just could use a champion, and a teacher to believe that one teacher can be that person for all 22 kids in a room, it's hard. And so they told us who they needed help with, and every single kid got a champion. And like, even our custodians were involved. They picked up name cards.
Everybody a champion.
Yeah, and the goal was they met with them at least once a week to read with them, do something with them. They celebrated them. If they could attend something personal of theirs, like a game, or come have lunch with them. And at the end of the year, we had like a little like, they had a little end of the year. It was just, our PE teacher was a champion to a second grader, and I would see her in the hall with the second grader. Jonah, the custodian, had 2 kids he was a champion for. Yeah, and it was just the most beautiful thing. And we got the idea out of the book of the year that we were reading as a staff last year called Culturize. And the book basically says every child needs a champion, someone who's cheering for them, and who, when they see that person, they know that they are so proud of them and it's special to them. And so we got those, and we just were really trying to build relationships and make sure that everybody at the end of the day had someone cheering loud for them. And that's, when we start tapping into some parents, because we would see them in the school, we're like, hey, you want to be a champion for a little girl? And we just need you to check in on her once a week and have lunch with her, and kind of like big brother, big sister kind of thing. But I think some of the adults like got into it way more than I ever imagined. Like, they were buying little gifts for them. It was so cute. Writing little notes during testing time. Like, I know it's testing this week. I'm so proud of you. I can't. And it was like a person that wasn't related to them, right? Not my teacher, not my mom, not someone who has to like me, but is choosing me. Like, they're choosing me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if you ever want to be a care partner, let me know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much. I do appreciate this time, because I think that a lot of parents just don't understand how to read all that stuff. So I'll send the PDF, and if anybody ever needs me to walk them through any of their reports, map reports, OST reports, please don't hesitate. I've had lots of parents ask me to help with that. So, thank you. And thank you, Megan and Sheree.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you so much.
I hope you feel better. I hope you feel better. All right.
Have a great evening, everybody.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm really excited.
So we have a little bit of time left. We'll try to rush through some of this other stuff. If you're coming really for this portion of it and you don't want to stick around, that's okay. But we do have a revised budget, which is one of our important things to get through to have that approved. But while Megan's in the bathroom, we can do some basic things like welcome and delayed. Hey. So we wanted to thank our volunteers for all of the great events that we've been having the past few weeks. The snack cart by the 4th graders was great. Thanks to Tori and Heather Petit. Is that
Emma Visnick.
Emma Visnick? Oh, I'm sorry. But Heather Petit was with who helped you do the yeah. I don't think I've met
Emma. She's a kindergarten parent.
Oh, okay. Well, that would make sense. We had our Olympics party for Mrs. Kelly's class. They had their pizza party and their bonus recess. So thanks to Kelly Taylor and Jen for getting that taken care of. The kids had a ball. Pumpkin Fest, Linda Robinson and Morgan Shelley. I wasn't able to attend myself, but absolutely everyone I've talked to about it said it was a raging success. Like, everyone loved it. They thought it was beautifully set up. All the pumpkins went, and financially, everything was even better than we expected. We expected it to be a non-profit situation whereby we were going to give away donuts and cider and coffee and all that stuff. And it was just the pumpkins that we were selling to recoup the costs of what the pumpkins cost. And so it was supposed to be like $1,000 hit. And instead it was only like 300 and something. Is that accurate? Yeah. So, wonderful. And we have some good events coming up that we want on your radar.
Book fair is ongoing. You certainly saw it set up but closed when you came in today. We will have the opportunity tomorrow. Your children can choose to come during recess and shop. It's a great way to do that, especially if you're not going to be able to make it to any of the outside times. What's up?
I forgot what day I signed up for. Can you see that, or
I'll look it up for you. Or yeah,
I can look.
Okay, Brooke can look it up.
Okay.
Um, and then Friday for the block party, it will be open starting after school all the way through the entire block party. If you feel so inclined, there may still be a couple of spots available to help with the book fair and or with the serving of pizza at the block party. So if you need those links, please let me know.
Megan, can I ask, so like when the book fair is open during recess, I mean, the parents aren't there with the kids at that time, right?
The
It's
parents
just-
are welcome to come in.
But
Maybe we haven't made clear, so.
I mean, yeah, it does say it, but either way, they are like,
Okay,
that's a decision between the parent and the child.
okay.
Trust your kid with the mic.
Yeah, that's why I think.
Yeah.
Like
Is
an
it
online
wallet?
kind of thing too,
Yeah.
and I'm like terrified at the idea of being like, yeah, go spend whatever you want.
Yeah. So, and we,
Well, an alternative you can consider too is that the book fair is also online. If you wanted to have some time with your kid and like go
Just
through,
go
they
through
have,
it at
like they
home.
will see
Okay.
it in
Okay.
person, but then you can go on the website.
I was gonna say there are additional titles.
There are more.
And if you click on the link, if you click on the link in the e-news for the shopping, it is the same book fair credit too. Like you're still supporting Onaway.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Um,
you put stuff in your cart and then you leave it there for a
Yeah, what
little
happens then,
while,
Jen?
then they send you coupons.
Oh,
Please check out.
But we need you to check out before the end of the book.
Yeah.
We do need you to check out before the end of the book.
Yeah.
But so it'll be. Oh, no, go ahead.
No, like I'll be there tomorrow if kids are coming in during recess, like Megan may be there.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we didn't do a volunteer sign up because it happened later. But parents are more than welcome. I mean, just to shop, like you don't have to come work. I don't mean that.
Yeah, I don't think, yeah.
But if you want to say to me, like, my child's coming in for an e-wallet, but they can only buy one buddy journal, like that's not limit anyway. Like even the kids are making their wish list, I'm like, that's great, now let's find a reading book.
can they?
Yeah.
There are, there's only 2 poppet books out, I think.
So, there are lots of books with little treasures. Oh, yeah. The books have words. So like we try and avoid that, like we can't really place it, but we do try.
Well, and
I like
another
to make
another
it
thing that has been advertised, but I don't know that everyone's aware of it, is that every kid is going to get a book this year free from the PTO. And we're running that through the grade level teacher who's coordinating for that grade to make sure that it's like a list of like 10 books that they get to choose from.
Yeah, they do get to
ish.
choose. It's a reduced
appropriate
list
for-
of titles, but they do have some autonomy in the title they choose.
Yeah, but it's things that the teachers have decided would be good books. for
When will the
kids.
kids know which book they're getting?
Some of them,
So that we don't double buy it.
some of them have already chosen. We can let you know, or correct me if I'm wrong. You have all the
books are
titles,
chosen for
all the books are
grades.
chosen. So
Okay.
she can tell you that it's gonna be one of the grade levels range
Okay.
from choosing between 5 to 7. But
What I think I'll do is I think I'll keep a list of those next to the register.
yeah, I think that's
And
great.
then like if you walk, just so I know, like in case
Yeah.
it slips through the cracks,
Yeah.
but like.
And some of the classes have already chosen. Your
Okay.
kid may or may not remember it, but
Yeah,
some of them have and some of them.
That's what I like. Calvin came home with a sheet that said Minecraft on it, and I don't know what that means.
No,
That's
Not on the approved list.
Yeah.
There's a Minecraft journal.
That's probably a journal. There's also regular
It doesn't
Minecraft.
have his pics for sure.
Good to know.
So yeah, but that is a thing that is happening. We cannot promise exactly when that book will be in their hand just yet,
Okay.
Pretty soon.
but it'll be soon.
Early
It,
next
it
week,
won't be
likely.
it won't be
Okay.
months or anything. Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
So it'll be going on Friday evening. It'll also be open during all conferences on Monday and Tuesday. So thank you very much for Brooke Farrer's book fair.
Just gonna say it is opposite. Yeah, sorry. Let me apologize for Megan.
Yeah. But she and Christina, I always butcher her last name, Stayhauer, have really done a lot to get the book fair up and running. There was a lot of behind the scenes stuff that they do to make it look effortless. So Spirit Day Friday is a very busy day. So we have book fair Friday afternoon, Spirit Day Friday, formerly Jersey Day, not Jersey Day anymore. In honor of the 100-year celebration, we pivoted to turn that into wear your shaker red, Onaway red, We apologize that the spirit wear is not here. That was outside of our control.
But everyone should have an IB shirt at least, and that's right.
Yeah. And we do have some t-shirts left in the basement. If you have a certain size, I can look. Sizes are limited, but we do have some. So let us know. We can look into that. The Centennial Block Party is also happening Friday afternoon. So there's some pictures in the hallway, some really neat stuff about Onaway's 100 years. And then parent teacher conferences Monday and Tuesday. If you have not already signed up for a time, please reach out to your child's teacher. And picture retake day is Thursday, November 2nd. It will be in the e-news, but if you need a retake, you can keep your class picture at home and just have your child bring in the rest of their packet. So, and if your child has a field trip scheduled that day, Mrs. Duffett told me that those children will have their pictures at 9:30 and then they'll leave. So those were the questions I've gotten so far.
Have we have seen pictures from our children yet?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yesterday.
Yes. It's in his mailbox. You'll see
These
it.
children.
Yeah, there was 2 in there when I looked at that.
I'll let you take the council meeting. Did we didn't go? Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So when we met with council and the other presidents from the other schools, went through a few different topics, and one of them from the treasurer, Susan Armstrong, she let us know that they would be revising the handbook. That's something that's been ongoing for maybe 3 years now. So it sounds like they're finally going to finish it. And that all units will be using Moneyminder and Key Bank, those are not things that were standardized before. So it'll be easier for reporting.
But we already do. Those are the things Onaway already uses.
Yeah, we already use those. So it's not a change for us, but more kind of across the district. And there was a shared company contacts list that I've shared out, I know at one point, to all of the VPs. And so it was sparsely populated when I last looked at it. But if we could be a help maybe to other schools, if you can populate it with things that, people that you've been using.
So it's vendors. Like if you're
Yes,
working
sorry.
on an event, or
Yeah.
if you've had a resource for ordering crafts, like for whatever, putting that info into that document can help our other schools in the district. It can also be a resource
for us.
and that
So no one,
hopefully everyone populates it and we can all kind of
benefit
get
from
an
it.
increased information. Yeah.
And also our meetings with the superintendent, our President Plus meetings now. So every so often we'll be asking 1 or 2 of the VPs from each of the units to come see what they're all about. When we can, we will try to align it with maybe obviously like what you're focusing on, but that may not always be, an opportunity that will match up, but just so that you can kind of see behind the scenes and have a chance to have, face one-on-one time with the superintendent. And
So what these are is
some of the best
monthly.
practices that are shared across.
Yeah. So monthly, Dr. Glassner hosts a meeting with, it used to be always PTO presidents. And so now they're trying to open it up and expand it. It doesn't have to be for a specific reason. If you as a parent are like, you know what, I'm interested in going to one of those, let us know. We'll let you know when the next one is. They're happy to have you. And there's pizza. It's always been pizza. It could be something else. Yeah.
It's never gonna be anything else.
No, I was gonna say,
Pizza and salad.
I got to sit in on the Zoom one with the Woodbury PTO.
Yeah.
And I liked it a lot.
Yeah. So like PTO should never feel
that's another
secret.
thing too. It's usually at noon on Friday.
Thursdays now, right?
No, it was just that one because it was a conflict. It's usually noon on Fridays, and Zoom attendance is always an option. So if it's something like I can't get away for it, because I have half an hour away from work, and yes, I have lunch, but that would be 2 hours, and so that's always available.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. So everybody knows we did really well with the Olympics. Our original budget was with a goal of 17,000 for our end number, and we came in at 28. So we had some money to move around. Some things, to consider. So we met as a budget committee again and went over.
Well, we solicited for
Yeah,
ideas.
We've solicited your ideas from the VPs and on down, and talked to a lot of different people about what their ideas were, where that money could be used best. And so we've made some decisions, and we wanted to share those out and see if we can get a yay or a
Yeah, we
motion,
need a new approval.
a
When
motion to
we move
approve.
money around in the budget, it has to be reapproved. So that's what we're hoping to do tonight. We will move quickly through this. You want to do this first, or do you want us to?
You guys.
Yeah.
We're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Okay. If you have questions, let us know. We're not going quickly
Yeah.
to.
Did I don't think I shared out the, it might help if you have numbers to look at.
Oh, yay.
Just picture them in your head. Just close your eyes.
I have my old copy and I was gonna scribble in all the new numbers. Okay, thank you.
I think I have it.
And we did have some great ideas. And some of them were great and not, didn't make it to this because they're already done. Like we had the wonderful suggestion of bikes, getting a fleet of bikes for the school, but the district has a fleet of bikes that move from elementary school to elementary school. If you don't already know that, that does happen in gym at some point during the year. So like we are happy to further discuss like kind of the thinking that went into why some things made
not
the
others.
list.
Yeah.
But it was all decided in a budget. Again, PTO is not secret. So I will let you take it from there. I don't know.
Are you just
Just
gonna tell
the
us like the things that have changed?
Yeah, I think we should
within
just
it?
probably do the line
Yeah.
items that changed.
Yeah. So in our first section, we just updated Onaway Olympics to reflect the actual number of what we took in, and also under expenses, we had put in more money to have pizza party for all classes to kind of make it a little bit more equitable, so it wasn't all about like, oh, it seemed a little bit icky to say like, oh, you brought in the most money, so then we were gonna, I don't know, praise you for it with a party. But it just wasn't logistically going to work. In talking to Principal Bechtel and just arranging that with teachers and volunteers, it was going to be a very volunteer heavy request. So we're moving some of that money to be able to purchase 100-year centennial shirts for every child and for staff. So let's see. The next thing that changed is Onaway service projects. So Amy Brodsky, who is heading that up, has been working very closely with the teachers. She specializes in working with IB content, and so she's making each grade level's service project be really aligned with what at that moment in time they're going to be focusing on. So it should be much more meaningful this year. And we increased the budget to reflect her estimates of what would be needed for those projects. And that was an area that we definitely wanted to be able to do more if we could. Initially, we were thinking that the projects were just going to be more like just drives that we were going to ask people to bring in food or items like, winter gear, something like that. But that is pivoted and we're happy to support it.
This is really exciting. Like
It is.
It's instead of supporting one individual cause, we're going to be supporting 5. Like and they're cool, and they will all, I'm sure you said this while I was trying to get the document to send out, but they will all tie into
dovetail very
it's
nicely.
really
With
it's
the
super
curriculum.
cool. It's super cool.
Yeah.
We're lucky to have Amy on that.
Yes. Right. And a champion in Angela, who was always fighting for it. A Scholastic Book Fair. we changed a number there, but it's something that washes out anyway. I was just increasing it from 500 to 750 because we weren't factoring in some other costs that needed to. I think it was the teacher's preview lunch we needed to add. Sustainability, we added a little bit more money there because we need to order some more compostable serviceware for one of the events that we had missed that we weren't calculating that in, and also requests that we got for a garden club and Earth Day, certain initiatives. Well, because we were using almost $1,000 for just the compostables but that's still a good savings because it's across all of the events that we're buying in bulk. And other than that, like I said, we took some of the money out of the expenses for Onaway Olympics, and we added to the 100-year celebration so that we could purchase those shirts that I talked about. And then under community builders, we increased that to accommodate speakers' fees, and we decided to offer free babysitting for that as well because we offer that for our meetings, and we also want more parents to be able to take advantage of these speakers as well. And the people
community builders things planned.
They're in the works.
they're in the works. I just I've been out of town for about a week, and in that time we did get an update email from Megan Fordori, who is organizing that, and she has some really great ideas that she shared with us, but I haven't been able to touch base about that yet.
Okay.
But yeah. And so those were the major buckets where we put more. And then we still have more, a little bit more money. So we added that to the legacy grant line item. There were lots of ideas that would kind of fall into that category. Some of them were that a lot of people were interested in were redesigning a new logo for all of our stuff because it just does not print well, and a lot of people complain about it. So getting something done a little bit more professionally that would last another 100 years, as we've been discussing it. A Gaga pit. The kids have sent Mrs. Bechtel several requests about that, and we felt really good about trying to make good on something that the kids themselves want. I mean, this should be for them, and we also might have an opportunity to work with some Boy Scouts who have Eagle projects, and so we'll be able to fund the resources and stuff, and maybe they'll be able to do the building and get their service hours.
But that's on that boulevard, I noticed. So.
Yes, that
Eagle
was
Scout
one that was done by
cool.
Scouts. Yeah.
A Gaga pit?
A goggle ball pit?
Goggle ball.
Gaga.
I was
Like Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
Finally, another person who does not understand what that means.
Your kids
They
are
have to
under the
explain it to
age
me
of.
every time.
I know, to me it sounds like a mosh pit and like a recipe for injuries, but
They're already playing it just
Oh,
without.
yeah, they love it.
It kind of looks like a hacky sack, but with like a bigger ball.
Like a dodgeball, hacky sack dodgeball.
Yeah.
Like not, yeah,
But you
hacky
can't throw
sack
it at their
meets
head.
Foursquare.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that with a little bit of dodgeball, but that feels scarier than it.
No, that's Foursquare. The
What?
numbers.
Oh.
It's not the
When we
same.
played at camp, there were numbers.
Oh,
so maybe
really?
That was
Wait, in Foursquare? Yeah, it's like
No,
Foursquare.
I still
Anyway, kids love it and they've been asking for it, so we're going to try to make it happen. I think that some of our hesitations right now about moving forward with that is just that we're not sure where on the property would be good to do it, and we were talking about something that was permanent versus something that we could fold up and take in, and what's more durable, long term. Okay, and other things where we need to take care of the things we have, like we gifted the music set in the playground in 2018-ish, and we need to replace some mallets and make sure that that's still usable for a legacy gift should last for more than a couple of years. So that leaves us with $10,611, and that is, in the range of an appropriate cushion to start the next year. So I think I didn't print out the verbiage.
Motion
Yeah.
to pass.
Motion to pass.
I make,
Second.
do you make that motion?
Do we have a second?
I second.
A second. Okay, so
Sorry, online, I'm trying to get your copy of it.
I think we have to do eight, ayes. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do we have any nays? Okay, let the record show that the budget has been approved for 2023-24 as stated. Thank you.
Perfect.
All right. And I think
All right. I think that's
everything unless
Jen, did you have, I know you said you didn't think you had
Right.
much today.
Thanks for all the treats. Always.
Oh, yeah, I
love
wasn't
the
in.
treats.
No,
And the teachers are really excited about everybody getting a free book.
They, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's really good for that. Yeah.
One of the other things that we had spitballed about too was we'll see how things shake out after some of our events, but maybe for Earth Day having branded reusable lunch bags for every kid, but I don't know. It's just an idea.
It's an idea.
Really big spot for a name.
Oh, really?
Come with a shark.
Yeah.
No, it does not need to. No, no, we don't need to shark. It needs to come with a room parent for each class.
Right, and a shark.
Yeah.
Because every child
Yeah.
in this school coming with same lunch.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
A great idea and also terrifying.
It's Halloween. We're here to scare you.
The mention of spring reminds me of something I wanted to ask about. Are there any like district-wide plans for the solar eclipse next year?
None that I have heard of.
What?
None that I have heard of.
It would be
It was brought, yeah.
sin to not let
Yes.
all of our kids
Right.
go outside and see the solar
Yeah,
eclipse
I
and
agree.
like make an event of it.
I was gonna say that
maybe
that
solar
would
eclipse classes need to go into the
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah.
I mean, for the big shit, that's a good one. Right? Well, but the kids will. Yeah.
Jen, you have to have solar.
No, actually, when it is at totality, you do not have to have the glasses. I get it.
But I also feel like that's a learning moment for the kids, that in not all instances would that be okay. So when
Right.
you learn about it, you use the glasses.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
need the glass.
I think we're
You can look
still in
now.
school.
Look away.
Totality is like at 3:00. The older kids aren't.
I know Woodbury is doing a late dismissal that day.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they will be at school.
Yeah, because I've heard there's like
You hear that
issues
all the way,
about
parents?
like
Woodbury.
people driving during this.
Oh,
Like, don't your won't lights turn on? Like,
probably.
Yeah,
But I'm like canceling all my plans and going outside with solar.
We have friends coming into town.
Yeah.
Like Kristen is coming. I mean, Krista is coming back.
That'll do our 60,000, so I would be sure.
With our girls.
she was saying
The
it.
science center is definitely doing stuff if you want to brave that traffic
Yeah.
to get down.
that's fair.
Then the science center is planning.
We're not right by a really large field.
I think
Yeah,
the field
yeah.
is a really good spot to look at from.
Or field, 2 fields.
That's something, if you put a call out, I'm sure there are a few parents that might be like,
Yeah.
that might be like, oh, I'm so passionate about this, like,
Yeah.
I will totally lead the charge.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if we just drop something in our.
Get glasses,
on
so
the way
we need to
out.
make
Yeah.
sure they're legit ones and not.
Yeah.
Well, and science center actually might be a resource for like, cause I'm sure they are ordering
Yeah.
Really into
gobs of them,
I
but
feel like that's a question for the superintendent.
I think it is too.
Yeah.
And I mean, I
What do you? And if the answer is nothing, great, we're gonna do.
Then we know.
then, yeah, then the teachers know, cool, then.
Then
we'll
all
start
of
planning.
Onaway is going to be outside of your office at about 3 o'clock.
Like everybody.
And like,
Awesome.
hopefully the weather is, cooperative, like it always is in Cleveland, but,
Any day, it's
and a guardian, so.
It's opening day. on Saturday.
Well, then it's for sure gonna be great weather.
Or it's the home opener. I don't know if it's opening day, but it's the home opener.
But yeah, something for the eclipse, like, it is,
Yeah.
I've only seen one total eclipse, but it was like a life-changing spiritual experience. Like, it was amazing.
Yeah, elementary school, I feel like.
I remember going out there.
There was like a
paper
thing we had
to do.
The shadows really
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
I mean, that's true. We could do like.
It would be nice if it like dovetailed into some.
Yeah.
The back, because we really have it.
Yeah, we definitely tried that.
You know, I remember like a ding dong wrapper, because they're like, you can see just enough light through them, like you can use a ding dong wrapper.
Right.
Like,
Ding dong.
Oh. I thought it was something else.
About here. I was gonna say Gaga ball. So we're yelling about ding dong rapper. This was the best meeting ever.
That's the word, that our meetings are fun, so we want more people to come.
I'll tell them.
So do we have any, and I think that's a great thing. I think we should look into it. We have a Glassner meeting next week. Well, we have a Glassner meeting in November.
I might be wrong.
Soon. Angela will probably be there. I think I cannot be at that one. I don't remember when it is. But are there anybody have any other questions?
No, you're right. I'm
Or
sorry. It's the 6th.
business or anything else?
Okay, so this is super long term, like next fiscal year, but it occurred to me that like if the bond goes through and like Onaway becomes K-5 in 2025. One thing we might want to start considering as a PTO is like what we should have the 5th graders have something special. Because right now the 4th graders have OLT and IB. So maybe next year. Yeah, okay, so is IB.
I was gonna say that probably is a school thing.
Exhibition will move to 5th grade.
So
like
how IB designs it, like we sort of massage
That's
it.
what I thought. So like next year, will the 4th graders skip IB to do it when they're 5th graders? Because they'll be the first 5th graders here. Like there'll be no IB next year, which might be fine.
I mean, there will be IB, there will be no extra.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Sorry.
I love IB. But yeah, no, I feel like just have rumors get started. I don't know, that's a really good question, but right, IB is not happening. My guess is probably, but I'm not.
Thank you for coming.
Because the thing is, so the Woodbury curriculum is so different, and the structure is so different that there might be. I don't think there can just be like a cold turkey switch because
They've been building towards
it while we're redesigning and figuring out what. So I'm not sure because there might eventually, yes.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the current 3rd graders that are going to be the ones who don't get it.
Anyway, that's a way far off in the future question, but it's just been bubbling around in my head that remember that we might have 5th grade.
Well, and we do still have our friends online, and I just wanted to add Kelly's voice to the conversation that as far as this goes, she's like, yeah, 5th grade won't move down for quite a while. And then she said she heard, though she doesn't remember where she heard it, that the district is going to be getting glasses for everyone.
Oh,
So
great.
she doesn't know if it's true.
Okay.
She doesn't remember where she heard it, but let's all hold out hope. Yes.
And I will
Awesome.
ask Dr. Glassman next time I see
Well, maybe you
Those are
come to our next.
Never mind.
I got an invite. I'm glad you explained it because I got an invite. and was like, why would I have to talk to Dr. Glassman? So
Yeah, so it's like it's a meeting kind of like this, and they usually have like a topic or two that they already have
Good. Okay.
pre-planned.
If you can make it, it would be great.
I can.
I think it's the 3rd.
I think I'm in. Yes. I will try to do that.
I feel like it's the day of Eddie's field trip. So anything else? Yeah. So anything else? Good. All right. Thank you guys. Next time, bring a friend.
Yes, next time, please bring someone, a new face.
We'd love to outgrow this space. So, all right, online, guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much for logging on, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Pretzel. I think to me, it's like the
She's got a cat. It's been there on the whole meeting. So cute. She's got a kitty.
These are Claire's stuffed animals that she makes me snuggle when she's not available to snuggle them. It's a hedgehog and a kitty.
Aww.
So I have to snuggle them for her.
Very cute. All right. Have a great night. Thanks for dialing in.